Anti-ICE protests intensifying in Minneapolis. Agents clashing with demonstrators 1 week after Renee Good was shot and killed by an ICE officer. And this morning, at least 6 federal prosecutors have resigned over how the case is being handled by the government, focusing on investigating Renee Good and her ties to protest groups. The Trump administration claiming she was a domestic terrorist. State and local officials outraged, saying the FBI is not sharing evidence.
The Department of Justice Civil Rights Department, which conducts use of force death investigations, has been excluded from this particular operation. So the people who do officer-involved civil rights use of force cases are not involved.
But Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche saying there is currently no basis for a criminal civil rights investigation. Tensions in the city rising, agents deploying tear gas into a crowd, demonstrators throwing snowballs, bodies slamming an ICE vehicle, a protester pinned to the ground while residents filmed and confronted agents. A woman pulled out of this vehicle while claiming she's disabled, and allegations that American citizens were detained while working at this Target store in Minnesota. As for Renee Good, President Trump was asked what he would say to her father, Trump saying, "I would bet you that she, under normal circumstances, was a very solid, wonderful person, but her actions were pretty tough." Influential podcaster Joe Rogan weighing in, appearing to question the administration's immigration crackdown.
I can also see the point of view of the people that say, yeah, but you don't want militarized people in the streets just roaming around, snatching people up, many of which turn out to actually be U.S. citizens. They just don't have their papers on them. Are we really going to be the Gestapo? Where's your papers? Is that what we've come to?
Minnesota and the Twin Cities have filed lawsuits claiming agents were told to, quote, push the envelope of immigration enforcement tactics. President Trump responding, saying, Minnesota Democrats love the unrest that anarchists and professional agitators are causing. Fear not, great people of Minnesota. The day of reckoning and retribution is coming. ICE has been targeting the undocumented Somali immigrant population. Homeland Security is now revoking temporary protected status for thousands of Somali refugees, ordering them to leave by March, claiming conditions in Somalia have improved, despite the State Department still warning of civil unrest and kidnappings. And this week, we could get a ruling from a judge looking into whether ICE agents in Minnesota should be barred from using force, intimidation, or crowd control weapons against observers and protesters.
This is absolute madness, okay? I'm not sure what news network this is I was looking at, but here it is. The state legislators want access to the FBI's case against this officer regarding Renee Good. You have just been implicated in up to $9 billion worth of fraud. Can the FBI trust you to be objective? Can they trust you not to hide evidence? Can they trust you not to do something nefarious with the case? No. The state should be under investigation. I believe the state is under investigation. So why should the FBI make you privy to this case that you actually contributed to? If it wasn't for all of the fraud that's been going on within that Somali community, within Tim Walz and the governor, then this wouldn't have happened. If Biden hadn't opened, let's be real, if he hadn't opened up the border, the United States border, and if your border czar, Kamala Harris, did her job, we wouldn't have had over 50 million people coming in through the borders. So maybe, just maybe, we wouldn't have had this issue. So it's only right, as far as I'm concerned, that the FBI leave them out of this investigation. And now, as a result of it, Trump is looking to denaturalize citizens from Somalia. Now, I don't agree with all of the Somali citizens being sent away. I'm sure that you have some that have been here for many years, that have integrated into the community, that have legitimate businesses, that have played by the rules in the United States. But those that just recently came over the border during the last administration, you denaturalized them. They need to leave, especially the ones that have committed crimes. They need to go. But I'm going to play this next video, and I want to hear from you. I want to know what you think about President Trump's plans to denaturalize him.
Another urgent priority for bringing down the cost of living is to stop the colossal fraud that is bleeding American taxpayers absolutely dry. The fraud being committed by the Somali population in Minnesota. Have you heard of them? They're lovely people. Is monumental. And California, Illinois, New York, and others are just as bad. Our country has been losing over $500 billion to fraud every single year, but those days are over. We have the best group you've ever seen assembled going after fraud. In Minnesota, we're cracking down on the Somali scams, ending the brazen and shameless theft of taxpayer dollars. Well, it's going on in Maine, too, with Somalis. You know, and they don't take our ships anymore. You know why? We hit them with the same missile that we used to hit the drug dealers coming in with the boats. You know, we have drugs coming in by sea down 97%. You've seen that? And we're trying we're really trying hard to find out who the hell is the other 3%. But we have them down 97%. And we're going to start hitting them by land, too. The hard part is done. By sea, nobody's coming. Hasn't been great for the fishing industry, however. Those that have a fishing boat, they're having a hard time getting customers. But you can't have everything. Nobody wants to go on boats. Nobody wants to go like 25 miles an hour. When you see a boat with 5 engines on the back of it going 65 miles an hour, and it's loaded up with hundreds of bags that you see cellophane with white, typically, it's not fishing. How about the couple of submarines we took down? We took out 2 submarines, and the Democrats say they were fishing. No, they were submarines. They were excellent. They build very fast. It's a drug-carrying submarine. They have a lot of money. And we took them out, and the Democrats, we froze it all, children's payments to those states that we're talking about, and we will now require proof of attendance in order to receive federal funding for child care or any of that. How about all these child care places in Minnesota where there is no children? They go there, they get paid millions and millions of dollars. The biggest operation in all of Minnesota had no children. And we pay millions of dollars. They're scammers, they always will be. And we're getting them out, and we're not going to pay them. We're not going to pay Minnesota. Right, Scott? We're not paying Minnesota any more money for any of that crap. It's a big scam. It's a giant scam run by an incompetent, crooked governor. He's an incompetent, crooked guy. And also, we're freezing any and all welfare payments going to illegal immigrants that will start effective immediately. So when illegals come into California, Gavin Newsom, they come into California, and they send us bills for people coming in. We're not paying it. So we're working on that very strongly. Just don't pay it. As Nancy Reagan would say, just say no. Remember Nancy Reagan, just say no to drugs. It's a little more difficult than that, I guess, right? Just say no. Additionally, from this moment forward, if you're on public assistance like almost all Somalis are, did you see where 94% of them are on public assistance? You can't wire money out of the country back to your bank account from where you came. But more importantly, we probably aren't even going to give them the money anymore, the money going to them because of the tremendous abuse and probably illegality being perpetrated on our country. We're not going to give them the money. We're not giving them the money. It's massive numbers of people are scamming our country. You know, they came from a place with nothing, and they come here and they drive around in Mercedes-Benz. You know, the Mercedes-Benz dealers do well in that area of Minnesota. Can you believe it? They have nothing. They get welfare payments and they have Mercedes-Benzes. It angers me so much, but we're going to straighten out our country. This was done under Biden and Obama, very much under Obama. It all started under Obama. And we just can't. We've got a great country. We're not going to screw it up. But this was one of the great scams ever. They have the same thing, Somalia and Maine. Who would think? I never saw that happening. But in Maine, it's really crooked as hell, too. But it's not just Somali. It is them, but it's not just. There are many other places, many other people. The whole country If we stop this fraud, this massive fraud, we're going to have a balanced budget. That's how much money you're talking. We'll have a balanced budget without all the growth I'm talking about. And then you add the growth, we got one hell of a country.
The deficit at the time of this recording is $145 billion. We couldn't even pay off the interest on that. This is ridiculous. Well, let's continue.
Right away, we're going to send out that notice. Who would bill the federal government as people poured into the state to send those people back because no country can afford to do it? No country can afford to take in millions of people, pay for their education, their health care, their hospitals. You just can't do it. And we all have a heart. You can't do it. But many of those people are murderers. They're people released from jails, prisons, mental institutions, insane asylums. They're people that are drug dealers. They're addicts. Additionally, starting February 1st, we're not making any payments to sanctuary cities or states having sanctuary cities because they do everything possible to protect criminals at the expense of American citizens, and it breeds fraud and crime and all of the other problems that come. So we're not making any payment to anybody that supports sanctuary cities. We have also suspended nearly 8,000 SBA loans, Small Business Association loans, to suspected scammers in Minnesota, of which there are many. It's a great state. It was a great state. Now it's getting destroyed by that stupid governor. What a stupid guy he is. But he's a crook. I mean, he's an incompetent guy, but he's a crook. He allowed this to go. You can't have corruption on a scale that nobody's ever seen before, and you're sitting as a governor and you don't know what's going on. It's impossible, even though he's a stupid guy. We're investigating large-scale visa fraud, and the Department of Justice has already charged nearly 100 people in criminal conspiracies in Minnesota. They're all over the place. Last week, we announced that I'm creating a brand new division at the Department of Justice, a legal strike force led by a really tough, smart new Attorney General for fraud. He's a fantastic young guy. He's so impassioned to do this properly. We intend to imprison any fraudster, politician, or public official involved in these sick plots to loot and pillage our country. Think of that Ilan Omar. She lives in Somalia. They don't have a government. They don't have a military. They don't have police. They don't have anything. All they have is murder and robbing ships, bringing in ships, pirates. That's stopped.
And see, this is what most of America has voted for. These corrupt politicians that are part of the fraud need to be arrested. These corrupt politicians that are telling their police departments to not comply and not cooperate with ICE. These politicians that are putting their citizens out there on the front line, unalived by ICE. They're the ones that are complicit in this. They're the ones that need to be arrested. They're the real fraudsters. Okay, and it's unfortunate that a great majority of U.S. citizens are being fooled by the propaganda. They're not looking at it logically. They're not saying, well, hey, they're trying to remove the crime out of the United States. We had so many people that came over that are unvetted, that need to leave. We have a system that is overwhelmed: Medicare, Medicaid, social services, Social Security. They say that Social Security is going to be insolvent in a couple of years. So how is it that you have illegal aliens on the Social Security payroll? We can't afford to do it. No matter how welcoming you want to be as a society, President Trump was right. So I think what he's doing is great. And I know that he's talking about removing denaturalization status from some of these citizens. Yes, the ones that have committed crimes, they need to go. But I have another video that I want to share, and let's get into it.
Go ahead. Thanks. Two questions on Minneapolis, one on the ICE agent, the other on the rioting. I believe last night there were protesters or rioters that rifled through an FBI car, took weapons. We had a reporter embedded with ICE who said that she saw constant harassment all evening. Can you speak to the rhetoric we're hearing from Democrat politicians, whether they are causing violence against ICE, as well as some of the headlines we've seen, not including the full story?
Yeah, I mean, to your first point, I think I've addressed that these Democrat governors and mayors in not just Minnesota, but in states across the country are essentially, they've referred to ICE agents who, again, are brave men and women. And I would encourage everyone in this room, and I would encourage Governor Walz and other Democrats who are demeaning law enforcement to sit down and have a cup of coffee with an ICE agent or a Border Patrol agent. These are great, patriotic men and women who have families, who put on the uniform every day and are following our nation's immigration laws at the direction of their bosses and again, at the direction of the law. They are simply trying to enforce the law. And the Democrat Party has demeaned these individuals. They've even referred to them as Nazis and as the Gestapo. And that is absolutely leading to the violence we're seeing in the streets. If you look at some of the images out of Minneapolis last night, look at this vehicle. Look at what it says. It says F ICE. You have these individuals who are putting their middle finger, proudly so, at the camera. Another ICE individual, a vehicle that was vandalized last night by these left-wing agitators. People don't do this without encouragement from people in power who make them feel like it's okay. Here's another one. And I'm pretty sure this car, you can't see it, said the best agent is a dead agent or something to that effect. This is despicable rhetoric that we're seeing. And the media is absolutely complicit in this violence, because if you look at the headline from CNN, protests erupt after federal agent shoots man in Minneapolis. That is not the story. That is not the truth. If you actually want to know the truth, you can look at what the Department of Homeland Security released, which is that this ICE agent was executing a targeted operation against a Venezuelan illegal alien who was unlawfully present in the country. And when this ICE agent tried to detain the individual, 3 more of his comrades came rushing out of a house and started ambushing and attacking the ICE agent. They used a shovel or a broom to smash his face in. And so, yes, that agent had to use self-defense and take out his weapon to protect his own life.
And see, this is the kind of rhetoric, again, that you have coming from mainstream media, from the governors and the mayors of these Democratic cities, and even some of the retired officers that I've worked with in New York City. It's unbelievable to me how people could be so brainwashed that you would go against your own profession or ex-profession because you have TDS, because you hate one person, one man, Donald Trump. And I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. So I am all for denaturalizing the Somali scam population. I am all for arresting these legislators, these mayors and governors that incite rioters. And I'm all for, ICE doing whatever they need to do. Even calling the president calling an insurrection act against Minneapolis. It needs to stop. But let me know what you think in the comments. All right. And make sure you like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.